I think just a few weeks ago, most of us would have found it incredibly hard to believe Albon would get another chance in F1. Despite that, here we are in yet another crazy silly season where Alex is finding himself with a second chance in the sport. And with the new rule changes coming in for 2022, and Williams already showing great signs of improvement under new owners Dorilton Capital and new CEO Jost Capito, the question is, can Albon get his career back on track? But firstly, how did the Anglo-Thai driver find himself back in an F1 seat? Well, of course, it's partly down to Alex's good friend Russell, because his move to Mercedes, replacing Bottas' replacing the retiring Raikkonen, has freed up a seat on the grid. However, the agreement to race at Williams was much trickier than just putting pen to paper. It was only around the end of August that stories of Albon getting an F1 seat started to arise, helped by Marco announcing that the Red Bull test driver will get his chance again in Formula 1, wherever that is. When asked about the possibility of Albon rejoining the grid, Horner said that Williams and Alfa Romeo have both shown interest, and he admitted that he was doing everything he could to get his driver back racing in F1 for next year. When someone noticed Albon's girlfriend was following Williams, the only F1 team she was following, it looked like the stories could have some truth to them. But Wolff wasn't just going to allow Horner to take up a quarter of the grid with Red Bull drivers. Enter Nick de Vries. Nick is the only modern F2 champion not to have raced in F1, and while many don't consider him on the levels of Leclerc, Russell and Verstappen, some say it's unfair that the Dutchman hasn't been able to reach motorsport's top tier. Easily beating Latifi to the F2 title, but not progressing up the racing ladder due to a lack of finance, de Vries decided to set his focus on Formula E. Nick joined Mercedes alongside former F1 driver Van Dorn, and despite the stacked and experienced field and driving cars very different to the ones he was used to, de Vries managed to win the Formula E title in just his second year, helping Mercedes take the constructors as well, with Toto Wolff watching on in delight from the garage. Now Mercedes don't have any young drivers to promote to F1 for 2022, so if Wolff were to pick one to replace Russell at Williams, it would most likely be Nick. But instead of replacing one Mercedes driver at Williams with another Mercedes driver, Wolff was now seeing Red Bull place a driver in that spot. What followed was the whole Williams seat fiasco turning into a power game between Mercedes and Red Bull, with both de Vries and Albon pawns, in what was part of a heated battle between the two teams, now extending off track. The Thai owners of Red Bull had told the team they wanted Albon to have a seat for 2022, but Wolff came out claiming he had genuine concerns about the move. Wolff said, "I think Albon, as I said, is a driver that deserves a seat in Formula 1. But it's tricky to have a 100% Red Bull driver with a Mercedes power unit. So happy to work with him, as long as they free him from his Red Bull contract. And on the other side, we're supporting Nick de Vries obviously, and he's in talk with Williams to get the seat there. There's quite some balls in play in there." Of course, Mercedes don't want Red Bull learning any secrets about them right at the start of F1's new era in 2022, as this could dent their hopes over the next few years. We saw that in the last generation of F1, Mercedes started very strongly. While the other teams were playing catch-up, the Silver Arrows were extending their advantage. If Mercedes started strongly in 2022, and Red Bull could find that information about the German team straight from the off, they may be able to catch up quickly. And if you think a driver's knowledge at one team is useless for another team, well, look at Kvyat. He was a Red Bull driver, but as soon as the team released him, he was snatched up at Ferrari as a reserve driver, and then Red Bull snatched him back after his experience with the Italian team. And then, when he was released again, a third team with another different engine supplier, Alpine, snatched him. So Wolff wanted Albon let go of, contrary to the desires of Red Bull's Thai owners. Add to the mix that Horner suggested Albon had calls from the Mercedes camp telling him not to go to Williams, and you end up in one messy situation with two parties fiercely fighting in a heated battle, trying to get a psychological win over the other. But in the end, Williams have opted for the more experienced Alex Albon. The question is whether Wolff gave up in the end, and decided just to go after the other Williams seat or an Alfa Romeo seat instead for Nick, respecting both drivers and believing both should have a spot on next year's F1 lineup. Although maybe by the time I upload this video, we'll find out that Nick didn't get an F1 seat. So that answers the question for what happened this year behind the scenes with Albon, meaning thoughts around the Anglo-Thai driver are turning to 2022. And some are wondering both what Albon's future is looking like at Red Bull and with Williams. But before I look into that, I'd ask if you could subscribe to the channel. Currently only 4 people of every 1,000 press the subscribe button, and I'd be extremely thankful if you could be one of those 4 people, because the support really means a lot to me. So what does Albon's future look like with Red Bull? In some regards, the situation feels very similar to when Carlos Sainz moved to Renault. When the Spaniard couldn't see himself progressing with Red Bull, he was loaned out at Renault, and a few years down the line, he has ended up with a seat at Ferrari. But in another regards, it feels like Red Bull want Albon more than they did Sainz. When Carlos left for Renault, there were two established figures at the senior Red Bull team, Verstappen and Ricciardo. Red Bull were very happy with both, and since naturally they didn't have any plans to change the lineup, they were fine to let what they believed the slightly less talented Sainz leave the junior team. Yet, just a few years later, and after the departure of Ricciardo, Red Bull are left with only one main figure, as well as a plethora of F1, F2 and F3 drivers, all of whom are looking to become Verstappen's teammates. Unlike Carlos, Albon appears more connected with Red Bull. He stepped in to replace Gasly despite only driving a few races for Toro Rosso, and in those 1.5 seasons, he nearly scored a win and brought home a 1-2, if not for contact with Hamilton on both occasions. And since you've seen my last video on Albon, you'll know he's played a crucial role as a test driver this 2021 season. Remember, Albon was only picked up last minute by the Thai company right before the 2019 season, when it looked like he was heading to Formula E. So there was a great amount of respect, both from Alex to the Red Bull team, and vice versa. But regardless, some say that Red Bull should just let Alex go now to run his own career. They question that if Red Bull really want the Anglo-Thai driver, surely they should put him in one of their 4 seats. I do think it would have been very hard for Red Bull to do this though. Perez has been the most competitive out of the last 3 drivers at Red Bull, and it makes sense to me that he stays. Gasly, of course, has been phenomenal. While many have moaned about Tsunoda's poor performances this year, it's worth remembering that the Japanese driver was only racing in regional Formula 4 just 3 years ago, the bottom of the single-seater ladder. Red Bull tend to give their drivers 2 years to impress them before dumping them, so it would seem exceptionally harsh for the team to announce that they were getting rid of someone who, in my opinion, has not been that bad after 11 races. Despite this, it's hard to see what kind of future Albon has with Red Bull. Even if Perez and Tsunoda leave for 2023, you feel Red Bull will want to give Gasly another shot at the senior team with the new cars if the handling isn't as tricky as before. And with Vips, Lawson and Deruvla all in Formula 2, as well as Doohan, Hauger and Crawford in Formula 3 all being Red Bull drivers and wanting a shot in motorsport's top tier, it's hard to see where Alex could fit in. So maybe Red Bull and Albon will end up parting ways, with Albon coming back to the team as test driver if he loses his Williams drive and is unable to find another seat. One other thing I thought was worthwhile discussing before I end the video was Albon's future with Williams. Of course, it doesn't matter too much for Albon what team he ends up at, as long as he's on the grid. Even if Williams end up 10 seconds off everyone for 2022, he'll have got real F1 race experience, something he's not getting as a Red Bull test driver. And Williams always seemed to bounce back from low periods. The team went from finishing 2nd in the Constructors in 2003 to 8th in 2006. And despite finishing even further down than that at the bottom of the pack in 2011 and 2013, excluding Caterham and Marussia, Williams reclaimed a top 3 spot when the new regulations came in for 2014. Going from 5 points in 2013 to 320 in 2014, many are wondering if Williams can repeat their success going into the next era of F1 in 2022. And there are signs that the recent inefficiencies behind the scenes are improving too. The Grove-based outfit couldn't even get a car out for pre-season testing a couple years ago. Yet, under the new ownership of Dalton Capital and new team manager Jos Capito, Williams are making arguably the biggest steps of any teams in the last couple of years, with Russell taking that 2nd place of course in the controversial Belgian Grand Prix. If steps taken in getting a head start for the 2022 cars are successful as the steps taken on track in the last couple of years, Williams could see a resurgence back to the top end of the field, with Alex using his experience when battling for wins with Red Bull to drive the team forwards. And while many people may laugh at the suggestion of Albon winning a championship in 2022, if Williams are the team that happened to be the fastest at the start of F1's new era, all Albon would have to do is beat his teammate to get a title. But regardless of where the team places at the start of 2022, things certainly look exciting, for not only Williams and Albon, but for all of us at home following the action. So how do you think Albon will perform at Williams? And can the Anglo-Thai driver revive his F1 dreams of fighting for podiums and wins? Something which looked impossible to happen after losing his drive at Red Bull. I try to respond to every comment, so please leave your thoughts below in the comment section. Oh, and make sure you subscribe while you're down there. But thanks for watching, there are a couple of videos on screen right now. Have a nice rest of the day everyone, and goodbye.